everybody, Kia ora, friends.
Yes, hello.
I'm Naomi, the Brick Cartoonista, and we have Remy here as well.
Yep.
Brick Literacy. So we're back, and it's Saturday, and we don't normally stream on Saturdays, which is a little kind of odd for me. I'm off on my dates and off with getting everything all set up, but we're here, and
Yes.
It's so exciting because now, yay, we get to conclude with the finale of Lego Masters New Zealand, Season 1, Episode 9, and the reason why we moved it from Wednesday, as we normally broadcast on for What, When, Why Wednesdays, is that we wanted to make sure we got our special guests here today, and very, very excited to introduce to you our Kiwi friends. But before I do that, let's see somebody's just commented in the chat. Rick Jedi's here. Hello.
Welcome, Rick Jedi.
Boy, how are you? Welcome. So our first guest, who is a dear friend of mine. In fact, we were just calculating when we had met each other through Toastmasters International, and I had been on my first trip to New Zealand to Paihia, which is in the Bay of Islands, for my very first convention. And I've gotten to know him very well. He's a super fun friend of mine, and I'm really excited that he was able to make it. Please help me welcome my buddy, Alun Chisolm. Hey, Alun.
Hi, guys.
How's it going? One of the things that Alun does is he often competes in the humorous speech competitions. And his one of his jokes is that he was born in Hong Kong, so that technically makes him Asian. So my Asian friend who's here today, and he also has worked for many years in doing programming for a number of groups, and he happily had a chance to retire at the age of 46. Lucky you. And so he's was happy to oblige us with all the multiple date changes, and he's here today, and really, really happy to have you here. And I think, is this your first time on StreamYard too, I believe, right? And,
it is, yes.
And the first time on one of the podcasts that I co-host with Brick Literacy. So welcome. Good to have you here, Kia ora, my friend. And our two other special guests who are here. And once again, we are broadcasting on Saturday because we got them both together.
Yes.
And we are so excited to introduce to you Jake Roos, also a consultant, also a contestant on Lego Masters New Zealand, and his partner on the show, Glenn Knight. Glenn Knight, who also during the day, and this is part of the reason why we're broadcasting on Saturday, because Glenn has a very busy job working for a medical lab and doing blood tests and some other things. And so he's seen our show kind of on his breaks. And I also wanted to thank him because he was one of the first Lego Master contestants to actually be in the chat of one of our early shows. And I remember when we were reviewing this, Remy and I are kind of like texting in the private chat, like, is this guy for real? Is this real?
We're being punked.
And he's like, yeah, he's for real. So you weren't punking us. Thank you so much for indulging us with our commentary and for giving us insights. And that's part of the reason why we're super excited to have both of you here to get some insights from you about the show. And as you know, for those of you who follow us regularly, Remy puts together several visuals that we're going to go through, and super, super excited to have you all here. So thank you again.
Yes.
It's a pleasure.
So how did you guys get into Lego? How did you guys start the Lego Masters journey? Who contacted who first? What was that process like?
There's a lot to cover. You go first, Glenn.
Okay, so I obviously had Lego when I was a kid and grew out of it like most people do. And back in 2016, a friend bought me a Lego set as a bit of a joke for my birthday. And I must have built it 10, 20 times and just loved it, had that feeling of nostalgia. So I went out and bought lots of Lego and went down the rabbit hole, and I joined up with the Wellington Lego user group that year and did my first show. And then after that, I actually started running the Palmerston North shows, and that's how I met Jake through Royale.
Yeah.
And I think before the show, you mentioned you're part of the Wellington leg, so you also knew Dan Mulholland as
Dan
well
and
before the show.
Mhm.
That's awesome. So go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So long before Wellag, back in the 80s, when I was 4 years old, I got my first set, which was, I think it was called the Starfleet Voyager. Nothing to do with Star Trek, but it was this ship with like a pod in the back. And yeah, I played the heck out of that. Lego was kind of hard to come by in the 80s in New Zealand, and you tended to get it from overseas because people could get it duty free at the airport in, say, Australia or somewhere, cheaper than you could buy it in New Zealand. And so and then that's so Space Lego, and then I got a Technic set when I was 8 with a motor, and that was kind of life-changing too. So yeah, I played with that. I never had much, but I love taking apart, building new things. And then I had my dark age, of course, but then I had kids, and I still loved it and saw it around. And when I had kids, then it was a sort of an excuse to pick up a little bit and play with them, some Duplo to begin with, and then some basic stuff. And then I started tinkering it with it myself, and I just really got into it. And it's probably like 12 years ago, and started building my own things and putting them on Facebook, and it started to get more elaborate. And then I went to the Wellug's first show, which I think was one of the first brick shows in the country, apart from the Auckland show that had been running for quite some time, in 2015. And went there and, saw the club and saw what they were doing, and met a few people, probably met Dan then as well in 2015. And I was really keen to take part and build my own stuff for shows. And so 2016, which was Glenn's first show, was also my first show. And it was great. I think we both won awards that year, and I was really impressed with what Glenn had done. And a few years later, I was thinking, wouldn't it be good to like team up with someone and sort of like combine powers? And Glenn and I discussed it briefly then, but it's quite impractical, to be honest, unless you're like living next door to each other, or cohabitating in some way, because there's Lego couples, right, which is great for them, but not so much for us platonic dudes living 2 hours apart. Totally platonic. Seriously.
That's why I said your partner on the show. Wanted to be clear to everybody, you're not partners, because we also had Jake's wife on the show for our third episode, which was awesome.
Not that Jake
approached me about confusion. Jake approached me about being on the show because I'd heard about it, but I'm not a fan of reality TV, and the idea of being on the show never really occurred to me, to be honest. But when Jake mentioned it, I went away and thought about it and thought, this is an opportunity I can't miss. So
it's a good thing you didn't miss it too, because you made it all the way to the finals. It's amazing. And I just, so Alan, we want to include you and your background in Lego too. And he even said, "Are you sure you want me on the show? Because I don't have a background in Lego." I said, "That's okay. We got plenty of people who could talk about Lego." But Alan, I forgot to mention, even though he was born in Hong Kong, he moved to New Zealand and has been in Auckland for a long time. And I had the pleasure of being able to hang out with him for a while over at the RSA up in Birkenhead, I want to say. Is that right? Birkenhead. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. And so it's been really great getting to know Alan through that, and just the love of the country too. And so thank you for all of that. And just kind of going back to, so the application, you decided to team up. And when we interviewed Georgie, she literally got the notification while she was at a ski resort. And then her dad just happened to be there. So she said, "I'm going to put you down, Dad, as my partner." So it sounds like you had some thought about it, and you talked with each other and decided, okay, let's do this. That's awesome.
Yeah, we did our live interview with Georgie and Andrew.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah. Cool. I'm sorry I missed that.
Sorry.
No, I must have missed that, but I wish there was a kind of an easier way for people in different countries to watch the Lego Masters from the other countries, because we're definitely starved for it here in the U.S. because they pushed ours back to September. So yeah, we'll have to check that out.
Yeah. The live audition was the first time we met Georgie and Andrew. So we were building side by side under the clock for the same challenge for an hour. Yeah, and we met Robin then as well for the first time, I think. Yeah.
I've known Robin for several years, and I'm glad he remembered me because we had him on the show a couple weeks ago, and he's super, super nice. And he also mentioned too that theoretically they could have brought the other Lego certified professional over from Australia, but they decided it would be best to have a Canadian be the judge. So I'm guessing you'd agree with that. Is that true?
Yeah, Robin was awesome.
Yeah, he was great, and he is great. So yeah, he was a great judge, and all of us are friendly with him still because he's really easy to get on with.
Yeah, he's a super, super guy. I'm going to see him in a couple weeks, actually. He's going to be at BrickCon here in Seattle. Yeah.
Cool. You've been following his trip around New Zealand and all the places I've been visiting. Pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
speaking of,
no, go ahead. Go ahead, Remy.
I was going to say, maybe we've as the season has progressed, we've added to the list of tourist destinations to visit in New Zealand. So yeah, is there a certain spot in New Zealand that a first time visitor would have to, like, you have to go here if you don't go anywhere else?
Probably the most iconic spot in New Zealand is Milford Sound, and it's not very easy to get to, but it's a huge tourist draw. It's just absolutely spectacular. Where else do you think, Glenn?
I'd say Lake Taupo. No, not Tuatara. Lake Taupo would be one of my favourite spots.
Yeah.
Some really nice little bays and areas around there.
Yeah, and snow-capped mountains, the volcanoes in the distance. It's lovely up there. Not too far from us, actually. You can get up there in a few hours, kind of 4 hours or so.
Well, I'm particularly fond of Paihia and Bay of Islands because that's where it was my first trip to New Zealand. And then I also like Lake Pukaki and the view of Mount Cook from Lake Pukaki as well. I have not been able to do there's a star tour. There's an observatory very close to there. And there are only certain times that you can go there because of the wind, that sometimes it's too windy to have tourists up there. But someday I will be back. Alan and I were talking about that. I'm scheduling a trip for 2024 because that'll be my 10th anniversary of when I first came to New Zealand.
Nice.
That's my hope anyway.
The Southern Alps are spectacular, all through there. I just love all that area from Milford Sound way down south and Fiordland going all the way up, really the whole spine of the South Island. It's amazing. Places like Lake Pukaki and Queenstown, Glenwalkie and Wanaka. It's, incredible.
So you got to get there, Remy, someday.
Yeah, it's on the list. It's been on the list for a while, so it's just even more reason to go explore.
So I guess, are we ready for the
are we ready?
Slideshow?
Yeah, let's start it up here.
Let's do this.
And of course, we start each episode with the Smudge Minute. So here we go. There she is. All right. Here's Smudge. One of the most popular Lego Masters contestants ever in any format.
She technically wasn't a contestant.
Well, she
was the companion to a contestant.
Yeah. There she is.
Celebrity. She's definitely the Lego Master celebrity. Yeah.
Look at those eyes. Puppy dog eyes.
Just checking out the scene here. And of course, Yeah, she had a relationship with you guys, Jake and Glenn, where there was that one episode where where everyone had to stop building for a half hour, and she just kind of hung out with you all.
Yeah, she just jumped up on my lap.
Mhm.
She was like, I'm tired of just sitting on the floor.
Mhm.
You want a better view.
Yeah, so here again, so she's in Dan's arms, and she's just looking at you guys over there. Yeah, and of course, there was a little accident on this episode. You can see here has left something, has made her own brick build contribution to the show here.
Zoom right in. It's Lego, people. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's Lego. It's Lego. It's Lego. It's
I
just
missed
very well
that.
made.
That's hilarious how they got her like walking off like,
Yeah,
there's nothing to see here, folks.
yeah. She's unapologetic of that. But yeah, Dai had to, issue just say, hey, everybody, just be aware of your surroundings, and he disposed of it, so that was all good. Anyway, that's your Smudge minute. Smudge was great, and you all knew Smudge before this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Dan still has that too as a memento.
Oh, really? This little brick built poop?
Yeah.
Because everybody needs one on their desk. He
That's
could probably sell them and probably, sign them too.
Mhm.
If he goes to a brick show, here, get your signed poop.
Were you all able to take any other mementos from the show, like from the brick pit or anything like that? Or
Not officially.
Not officially.
It is being recorded.
if you okay, just in theory, if you had been able to take
If
something,
I was able to, I would have.
No, that's okay. We don't want to get anyone in trouble here. But anyway, that's our Smudge minute, and yeah, let's go into the episode. So this was the obviously the finale episode, and sorry, one second. Just trying to transition here.
Hey, no worries. And one of the things that we talked about before the show, and for those of you who watch regularly, this is what's called low production. So we're not in a fancy studio or anything. We don't have the lighting like this group does. It's very casual.
But yeah, this was it for all the marbles. This is 24 hours, just totally open build, which is kind of my favorite type of build for the finale. Last year for the US version, they had to build to a theme, and so I don't know, it wasn't as good as when you can see just a team just go absolutely wild.
Now, Alan will probably appreciate this because in Toastmasters we talk about posture, and this is what's called the fig leaf pose. So this is where it's like both Robin and Dai are like covering their private parts. It's almost a sign of like nervousness, So I just think it's kind of funny that way. That I think, Robin isn't a celebrity or a personality. I mean, this is like his first time being on a reality show as well. But Dai, you would think he would have more familiarity with that. But I just think that pose is hilarious whenever I see it. You think so too, Alan?
Oh, yes. The thing we always tell everybody, you don't do that. You don't do the fig leaf pose. You don't put your hands in your pockets. It's just it's like an unwritten rule. Immediately straight after that, you break it because then you can think of a good reason for doing it. You get extra points for doing that.
Right. So the fact that the hosts are starting the show with that pose is just pretty hilarious.
Well, I'm sure there were a lot of mixed emotions and butterflies for the finale.
Yeah.
But I think for the hosts, though, I mean, are they just as nervous? Do you think they are just? I would think Robin might be because he doesn't have the experience that Dai does.
Yeah, and maybe he I didn't discuss it with him, but maybe he's excited to see what would happen.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it, as you said, Remy, the end. So hoping for some great builds and all of that. Certainly, we were a bit. I mean, I was feeling a little bit nervous, but just just actually because we'd missed episode 8, it was more like, and we'd done our prep and we were ready, and we're just actually getting just to the point of like, come on, let's go, we champing at the bit, I think.
You're just tired of waiting.
Yeah.
Well, it's been what, 9 weeks. This is week 9. I mean, you've been filming
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks of filming, but 9 weeks of episodes, right? Yeah.
But let's see. You can't tell that the minifigures of anyone are nervous. So the minifigures have it all together. Even Smudge there on the left.
Yes, they all are very confident.
And something else happened this episode, which was kind of interesting. That I don't know if I'd seen that before. Is that they had a marching band just come through and just do their thing. So yeah, this is the, let's see. Here's Di there, and Waitakere Auckland Brass. Is that a famous marching band in New Zealand?
No, it's the local marching band. So the studio was in Western Auckland, and that's called Waitakere for the Waitakere Rangers, which are way out west. So they would be the local band.
Okay, well that's neat.
Well, have you seen them live then, Alan? Since you're based in Auckland.
It's a local band, so I wouldn't have seen them. I suppose if I spent any time in the west of Auckland and you went to a fair or a county fair or something, you probably would see them.
Something to break things up, because we're in the midst of COVID here, and so Omicron lockdowns, and so on some other shows they've brought in the public, but they couldn't do that, so they brought in a brass band instead, just to march in and march out again, rather than sort of hang around and mingle and exchange, bacteria.
Right.
Yeah. You mentioned the public not being able to come in, but this is kind of the point in the finale episode where you would get like a message from your family. I guess that wasn't possible due to COVID, or.
Well, no, they didn't do that. We did get a message from Ryan McNaught, though, which was quite nice.
Yeah, that was cool.
Oh, nice.
The Australian brick man.
Yeah. That's I wonder why they didn't air that part. Did you just send kind of a video message to the entire cast, or?
Yeah. The producers had a laptop that they had the recording on. They just brought it around and showed everyone.
Well, that's neat.
This is the behind the scenes things that we wouldn't have seen. So that's awesome. But Robin did mention that they thought that Brickman might have had an opportunity to do this show, but it sounds like Robin was definitely the better choice.
Well, I mean, they're both awesome, but I could see it from the producer's point of view of having an Australian judge in a New Zealand competition.
Exactly.
I hadn't thought of that myself, but I can see it now. I saw it once they said it.
Now, is there somebody in New Zealand who is like, I know they're not an LCP, but maybe somebody that you admire that you would have been happy to have judge your work?
Glenn,
no one I can think of.
No, I don't think so. There are, I mean, Ryan McNaught, the Brickman, he is the Brickman for the entire Southern Hemisphere,
right,
and most of the Pacific as well, Asia Pacific. So there isn't actually a lot of room for anyone else, and certainly no one in New Zealand. It's too small.
Right.
So there aren't any Lego professionals in New Zealand, not really, apart from, I suppose, some of our contemporaries who got hired by the show. They were AFOLs and they got brought in, so they were Lego professionals for a little while.
That's true, because they were talking about some of the set designs that were designed by Robin, but were built by some of the local brick AFOLs. And just so you know, Alan, AFOL is Adult Fan of Lego.
Okay.
So if you're wondering about the acronyms we're throwing out. And the other thing that we talked about with Robin, and I'm curious about how you felt about this, were some of the set designs that he had designed in Duplo. These massive Duplo, the dice were out of Duplo,
Yeah,
and
the serpent.
that serpent was out of Duplo. And I had never seen something built that large out of Duplo, which just blew my mind. I was just curious how you two felt seeing that some of those sets.
They were very impressive. You know, the scale on TV, I don't think comes across as they do in person. But yeah, they were quite impressive. Very large.
Yeah. It's smart building out of Duplo, obviously, because if you want to have that 10-meter impact, it's got to be big. So you can build something bigger faster with bigger bricks. That occasionally gets used. I remember a few years ago there was a giant Lego Christmas tree. I think it was shown in Sydney, but it came to Auckland as well. It was mostly actually Duplo. Again, just to get the size quickly, efficiently. Yeah.
Yeah, that was eye-opening. So I'm actually thinking someday at a brick show, I'm going to make a big Duplo structure, but I'm anticipating that's going to cost a lot too to get all those bricks.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's cool. Vicarious Brictus is welcome. First of all, welcome, Lena. Does Waitakere mean something, or is it simply the name of a place?
I'm sure it does mean something because the names usually all translate to some sort of something that's quite descriptive. Wai is water. I'd have to look up what Waitakere exactly means. Well, apart from some places which sound like Maori place names, but they're actually been mangled by Europeans. And so
I mispronounced it immediately. So
not just that, like the colonials that came over and they said, "What's this place called?" And the local people said something, and they were like, didn't quite hear it right, and then it still stuck. Like there's a place in Wellington, and it's called Petone, but Petone means nothing in Māori. It was a longer phrase, Peteo Oni or something, which meant the place of the shellfish or something like that. But everyone calls it Petone. It's not. Doesn't mean anything.
I just googled Waitakere. It means deep water or cascading water.
Okay.
Ooh.
Could be a corruption of a stream where the kauri grows. It may have been named after a chief who was murdered at the mouth of the stream.
Oh, that's not.
Well,
that's
good to remember. But yeah, Vicarious Bricks just is from Hawaii. She says Y is sea, ocean in Hawaiian too. So that's interesting. But yeah, good to know.
Next
because
time
a
we'll
lot
have
of these
Kingy on the show. He helped to kick us off on our very first show. He's my Maori cousin, and he's the one who named me Kahurangi. So that's why I go by Kahu when I talk to my Kiwi friends. But yeah, I think the Maori influence is really wonderful, and also the fact that Robin took the time to learn Maori as well, and would speak that on the show.
I just thought of another example. You like the Bay of Islands, don't you, Naomi? And you've heard of Paihia up in the Bay of Islands?
Yes. Was I mispronouncing that?
No, no. What happened was a missionary was meeting a Maori chief, and he said, "Oh, it's Pai here." Pai meaning good in Maori, and he was saying, this is a good place to him, trying to use a little bit of Maori, and somehow it turned into the name of the place, Pai here, like it was a Maori place name, but it wasn't. It was just something a missionary said once.
Well, I mentioned this on the first show when we were talking about the archipelago and all of the iconic buildings. And I said, why didn't they build the treaty house? That's very iconic. And I saw that when I was in Paia. And I did look it up, by the way. This came up in a previous question. The name of the hotel I stayed at was the Copthorne Hotel, which is right in Paia. And then there's a walking trail that goes right to the entrance of this sacred grounds where the treaty was signed. It's very interesting. So if anybody, Remy, when you go to New
My
Zealand, you got to go. You got to go to Kahia. Yeah.
No, this is interesting. I don't have any connection to New Zealand, and so a lot of this
Yes,
stuff
you
just
do.
kind of goes
Right here.
before
These are
we.
your connections.
A lot of this stuff just goes over my head, but it's really interesting, and I've really learned a lot over the course of the season. So, well, I mean, I didn't before, but anyway.
We
All right,
know.
so let's look at some builds. Yeah, so we'll do this in show order, and right up off the bat is the seal of approval by Glenn and Jake, and here it is. This seal of approval.
I love the check mark on the desk.
Yeah. Was this based on a guy that you had worked with in one of your offices, or it was just?
There's a bit of a story behind this idea. When we went up there, we kind of had an idea of what we wanted to do if we got through to the final, but we soon realised that it wasn't what they were looking for, and probably we wouldn't have the bricks. So we decided to come up with another idea, and because we got second place so many times, we kept talking about how we can get Robin's seal of approval, and then we decided that we'd just build it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, we're wandering. We're actually taking Smudge for a walk. Because we're staying with Dan and Jono, and for the duration of the competition. And yeah, we're just literally talking about how we could get Robin's seal of approval. And I remembered the seal of approval gag where the seal actually, it actually is a seal that approves of things. And I'm not sure whether it was Glenn or I, but it was something along the lines of like, oh, imagine if he was in the office. And we just kind of joked about it and kind of exchanged a few kind of ideas of what it would be. But really, we're just joking. We weren't actually serious about doing it initially. But then we cycled through, I don't know, half a dozen other ideas. And 10 minutes later, it was like, actually, that's a winner.
Back to it, didn't we? Yeah. And it was just too funny not to try.
Yeah.
The idea was just a really funny idea.
But part of the thinking behind it was that we'd seen the first 3 seasons of the Australian show and the 2 seasons of the US show and seen what had been the final builds there. And no one had really gone for something that was really funny, that was just a big joke and a straightforward attempt to make people laugh. Like they still had fun aspects to them and stuff, but they hadn't really gone for a joke. So I thought that would be good to do something different.
Yeah, and we thought the idea was really strong. Like you don't need to know what it is, but you can kind of work out the story.
Yeah. And of course, people can relate to A, getting approval. Everyone wants approval. And 2, the office. The office is a familiar environment to people. And with Lego, it's really important to be able people to find some way to connect with it quickly, or else they lose interest. So we thought that was, and a big silly character, obviously. A big characters, we'd learned that Robin was really keen on big, colourful characters.
And you're right about the other seasons about having a very iconic character and something that people can relate to is important.
Yeah.
But you brought up an excellent point about the comedy aspect of it. And I think everybody can relate to bureaucracy in an organization. So I think that is also the funny part of this is you're making light of some of the bureaucracy that we see in our day-to-day lives.
Oh yeah. I used to work for local government, municipalities, and I had to approve stuff as well for a while there. I was signing off planning conditions, and I remember my other colleagues, they were like in the building control department, and they were approving building plans and things. So they were flat out, rubber stamping stuff, and whenever someone didn't get their way, obviously they were very upset about it, and so it was just this idea of the bureaucrat that gives people what they want.
Lena says they love the water cooler. Yeah, was the water cooler something that you had initially planned to incorporate, or? How
No,
did that
it
come
wasn't.
about?
We in the initial idea, we had ideas of like a filing cabinet or a suitcase full of fish. Had this idea of a fax machine on top of a filing cabinet with a fax from his boss, telling him off, saying, "Come to my office. You've approved too many things." But not a water cooler.
That water cooler come together in about the last 30 or 40 minutes of the build.
Oh, wow.
It was so quick to come together.
Yeah,
Cool.
because we'd played around with the composition and realized that having another kind of object in there would be quite good. And as we're progressing through this build, over 24 hours, I was, had an eye on, we should get round to that. We had a whole list of things to do. And it became clear, though, that there wasn't, that the ideas we had probably we didn't have time for them. But I don't know. It's just it seemed like something that was achievable in the small amount of time we had left, and there was no harm. We could just go for it.
Right.
And and that's really when I think Glenn and I, our teamwork was really
that's
at
when we
its
peaked.
peak. Yeah. It just, I mean, like everything we touched worked, and we had to coordinate so closely. Like if you look closely, there's starfish on the sides and top of the water cooler.
Yep.
And maybe it's not in there.
Hang on,
you
we'll
can see
find
one
it.
just back there.
Yeah, there we go.
And so I was like, we need something for the sides. Glenn, can you do a starfish? And he just goes off and makes a starfish. Then we have to attach it, and I've put a snot brick in, but it's not the side flexes inwards when you push on, so we couldn't actually get it to connect to the studs. So we did this super complicated thing of poking a long piece of Lego through into the back because I could no longer get my hand inside it. And so it was a super delicate operation, and we got it on there,
Yeah.
Could have gone quite bad.
Yeah.
It could have gone, all falling apart. Yeah.
It's brutal. But yeah, let's take a look at some of these details. I like the because this was cool because the arm moved, it's stamped, and it would hit this switch here, and that would light up the check mark whenever it would stamp.
Yeah. When his arm come down, also he poked his tongue out.
Oh yeah. We got. Let's see. Yeah, you can kind of see the tongue coming out a little bit.
Yeah. I love the thumbs up too.
Yeah.
Seals don't have thumbs, so you need to decide.
Man, I absolutely don't know enough about seals to challenge
They
that.
usually don't have sunglasses either.
No.
Yeah, corrective vision.
Corrective lenses for the seals.
But yeah, I like the callback to the robot in the bridge build, I think it was.
Actually, Kaikoura is a great place to see seals in New Zealand. If you've ever been to there's a seal colony that's right over there. We talked a little bit in one of our episodes about just the way New Zealand is. There's one major road that goes from Christchurch up to Blenheim, and that you can stop in Kaikoura. But yeah, when I saw the seal, it reminded me of Kaikoura.
Yeah, but I love the shirt as well. Like the necktie is great, and also the shirt is great. It's definitely one of those '80s shirts where you had the white collar and the different color shirts that you just don't see those anymore.
You haven't looked at my wardrobe.
We had just enough part choice to make that work in terms, and Glenn will tell you about the challenges. But yeah, we thought that it's got to be a pink shirt, but of course we had limited choice of pink parts, and there were different shades of pink, and so we had to assess which one had the best selection of parts to actually build it.
I wonder those pink parts may have come from Georgie's pig from episode 5?
Yeah, it's just recycled.
Yeah,
recycled pig.
So it's a recycled pig shirt.
Most likely, yes.
But let's see. So yeah, the tail moved, and what else?
Yeah, what do we have, Jake? Was it 7?
7 functions. So we had the tail flippers going.
the fish
going
removing.
round and round in the water cooler, the stamping arm, the tongue.
This fish also moved back and forth.
Yes, yeah. So that tail went backwards and forwards. So down inside the desk was a whole mechanism for doing that, and the way we'd worked it out beforehand, built a prototype, and I didn't want the tail just kind of gently going from side to side, and like a sort of wanted it to be frantic. So I've had this arrangement where the tail's basically getting hit from one side to the other like that, just to give it a bit more kind of more of a frantic feel to it.
Yeah, and the lamp on the desk worked too.
Yeah.
Oh, the lamp. This lamp lit up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if they gave us a shot of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it doesn't look very bright in that shot there for some reason, but I think the studio lights are a bit on the bright side for the.
Yeah, sometimes they don't. They only give us the shot like under these kind of odd lights, so like you can't see that the cup says okay. Yeah, that's just really hard to see, but it's there.
Also, you can see on the desk in this shot, he's got a packet of penguin biscuits. You can see it says penguin there.
Is that what that is? Like, I couldn't see this part, so I was wondering what this was. Penguin biscuits, okay.
Yeah. Which are cookies in the U.S. Yes. We call them cookies, yeah.
Glenn did a marvelous job of the pot plant as well. Which was
one of my favorite parts is the family photo with all the little babies' heads lined up.
Yeah, let's hang on. Yeah, let's look at the photo here because you have the entire family at the beach, of course. They are just hanging out, and you can kind of see another starfish on the top back here. But yeah, this was also a great detail.
The drawers, the detail on the drawers was amazing.
The drawers, and then the no symbol, the no stamp with the cobwebs around it.
Cobwebs. I missed the cobwebs piece.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, there's some spiders in there too. It's fun.
It was good fun, sort of replicating everyday objects. I mean, I find that quite enjoyable, and there was so much scope with this build to do that. And again, it's not something we'd seen a lot of on Lego Masters. So
true.
Yeah.
I think for the finale of one of the UK versions, somebody built, I think, himself and like his child, but that was a completely different tone. It was like this scale of almost life-size sculpture, but that was totally different. But yeah, I don't know if anyone has attempted an entire, office situation here.
You can see the light bulb a bit better in that shot. It's quite
there. It is. Yeah. You can see that it's definitely on. And yeah, you can see next to Robin and Di just the massive scale of this model. It's just amazing.
And the 24 hours that you took to build this, I mean, you must have been exhausted by the end. And did you ever feel at some point that it's like, can I really do this? And it seems like so. I mean, how do you prepare for something where you're going to have to build for 24 hours?
It went by so quickly.
Really?
You're just concentrating on what you're doing, and before you know it, you're 8 hours in, sort of thing. I don't think there was ever a time where we were worried that we wouldn't finish it. I think it was more of what it'll be. Like we had a list of must-dos, possibly dos, and like-to-dos. And it was a case of how many of the like-to-dos and possibly dos we get into.
Right.
But we knew the basic design of the build was doable.
Yeah.
Was there anything that? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
We'd worked out most of it beforehand in terms of planning it out and what it would look like, how big it would be. So I had a really clear idea in our head, but there's certain things we hadn't worked out. So I hadn't worked out how to make the tick flash in time with the stamping. And but of course Robin sidles up to us and says, you've got to make it flash in time. It's like, oh, okay. All right. Well, that problem was on maybe I'll solve it, and it had to go onto we've definitely got to solve it list. And similarly with the tongue, like we're sort of vaguely thinking that it would be good to have some movement around his face. And then Robin sidles up and says, "You've got to have some movement up there." And again, it was something we had to come up with a fly. So that made it, a little bit more. So that wasn't part of our planning. So that definitely increased the tension a bit.
One of the funny things about our planning was one of the things we didn't really talk about was how we were going to build the seal. And it was, I think, a couple of days before we were going on filming, and I mentioned it to Jake, and Jake says, "Don't worry, I've got a plan. You're going to build it." Oh, okay.
That's the plan. I'm going to delegate this.
That's a good plan.
It worked.
Well, the thing is, throughout the competition, I'd seen Glenn basically build anything he put his mind to, so I figured that he'd be able to build a seal.
Yeah. Well, they talk about in the episode how you built it kind of from the ground up and did the head last. Had you considered starting with the head, or did you have to establish kind of like the footprint of it first?
I think I needed to see the body size before I started on the head, just to get the head the right sort of shape and size. Yeah, it just seemed easier starting with the body.
Yeah, and you had to have somewhere to put it, and I mean, it is generally a good rule to do the hardest thing first, but in this case, it just, I think it was okay because it was over 24 hours. It definitely was a sticky bit of the proceedings when it was like, okay, building the head, getting the head up there, getting the tongue moving. That was one of the most technically complex bits where, apart from the water cooler, where Glenn and I had to work together really closely to make all that work. So yeah, that was definitely. I wouldn't say we were really nervous. If we were doing that in the last hour or two, then we would have been in big trouble.
We had time.
Yeah, we still had time.
In case of once the tongue was in and all set up, there was no going back. We really couldn't pull it apart again, so we had to get it right.
Oh wow!
Absolutely. And Robin mentioned on some of those larger scale sculptures that he designed it so that they would be layers. So it sounds like for the seal, you also had to kind of build it from the ground up as in layers, and then get to the point for the head and leave some structure.
So Jake did a really fantastic drawing and mock-up of the build, and so we were just taking measurements off the drawing and trying to keep it into scale. And so we'd build a bit and just make sure it's within the size and shape of the drawing. So it's good to have something like that to work off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, very cool.
Yeah, and of course, if you dropped anything inside them, they probably weren't getting it back.
There's a lot of loose parts inside there that were just
when we got to the shoulders, basically closed off the bottom of it completely with plate, and built obviously all the mechanism in for his stamping flipper, and it actually had a counterweight. You see he's quite bulky around his shoulders. That's because he actually has a counterweight hanging down inside off the same axle as his arm, because otherwise it'd be far too heavy for the Lego motor to pull the flipper back up. But it had been it was balanced out, and I used like battery boxes and as many plates as I could stick together to make the heaviest thing I could, which was hanging inside his body there.
There's a little bit of guesswork that paid off. Yeah.
That's you have to think about those mechanics, and that's a brilliant way to do it, because those battery boxes, they can be pretty heavy. So if you had to put plates on top of that too to even weigh it down even more, that's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, all in all, amazing job, guys. I love big creatures. That's my favorite kind of Lego build. So I obviously really enjoyed this one.
Cool.
But yeah, now there were 2 other builds competing for the finale. So let's talk about this. No, Glenn asks, Lego Masters doesn't supply the boat weights. No, they do not supply boat weights. You have to build your own. So yeah, moving on to Dan and Jono's Love Letter to New Zealand. And this was also, a different kind of wildlife. So yeah, maybe Alan can let us know like what exactly all these creatures and trees are.
Well, the major one in the center, that's a Tuatara, which is
Tuatara.
a native lizard.
Mm-hmm.
A very ancient form of lizard. It you can probably Google it. It predates most modern lizards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a botanist, or zoologist. I know nothing much more about them. You see them in zoos. They exist in the wild, but I've never ever been adventurous enough to go and find one.
Well, Wellington has Zealandia, which has a Tuatara enclosure or area. So that's where you can get one if you want to go to Wellington, or not get one, but see one.
You can go see one.
Say acquire one, yeah.
Are they very big, or are they, you know?
Actually, I think the Tuatara in that Lego model is probably a little bit bigger than a real one, wouldn't you say, Glenn?
Yeah, slightly.
Yeah.
Let's see.
That's a weta.
Oh, yeah.
That's on the
Oh, yeah,
log.
on the tree. Yeah.
A weta. Is this some kind of a grasshopper insect, or?
It's just a great big bug, herbivore thing, like living in rotten logs, places like that. Sometimes you find one in your gumboot at the back door.
And
is that, do they charge extra for it, or is it not supposed to be there?
Well,
and they're big.
Or if you leave your newspaper in the letterbox and the newspaper gets nice and wet, there might be a weta decides to cuddle up in there.
Well, you can attract wetas, I guess, if you want to do that. Is have some rolled newspaper. I think that's one thing I didn't get used to when I went to New Zealand and had fish and chips for the first time. I'm a vegan now, so I don't eat fish, but they wrap it in this paper and that you don't use any utensils. It's like they pass you this wrapped up fish, and then you unwrap it, and then you just eat everything with your hands. Which so I imagine if you had one of those wrappers left over, you could just attract a bunch of wetas using that.
Maybe.
Okay, good tip for when I'm on the island.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good tip, Remy. If you go to New Zealand, you have to try their fish and chips because they present it in a very different way.
Good to know. Okay, let's see what else we have in here. This kind of bird.
It looks
do you
like
recognize this bird?
Is that a fantail?
It looks like a fantail to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, also known as a piwaka waka. Or I think it's got another name in Māori as well, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks like a koru fern leaf to the right of the kind of unfolding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Okay, and so now there's this eel kind of creature here.
Mm-hmm.
And then
you can see those in Zealandia as well. If you take the night tour, I believe they glow in the dark.
No, no, they don't glow in the dark, but you can. They do roam around at night, but they come out in day too. Like there's a local nature reserve here, and if they turn up at 2:00 each day with some dead rats and things, they can. The eels will rock up and come right out of the water and get them.
Feeding time. Now I wonder if the lights behind that eel, or there's some caves in Hamilton, I believe, that have those glowworms that are in the caves.
Yeah, it's down south of Hamilton.
South of Hamilton, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I never got to see those, but people were telling me that those are amazing to see as well.
Oh.
I don't know if that's what they were representing, but I'm guessing with the lights there.
Kind of bioluminescent. That's cool. So now we have our lobster here, just hanging out. And I thought it was interesting that the lobster is actually carrying a trophy here.
I missed that.
He's just hanging out. He's got his trophy.
That was a clever piece of building by Jono. Some really clever play usage in that.
So
yeah. These eyes and the antenna and the little swords here.
Yeah, roller coaster cars and Vespas.
Vespas as well, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The shaping of the cliff is also very nice.
But yeah, I guess we'll have to ask them what the trophy detail meant.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Aside from just hopes for the finale. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of
Maybe
fun.
it was like a subliminal message that they're sending to Robin.
Yeah.
Pick us.
Anyway, here's some more close-up shots of this Tuatara with the little bugs in its mouth.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed this head here.
Oh, Dan's in the chat. Hey, Dan. Okay, we can ask you. So, building with the black dog is here. So,
Yes.
Dan Mulholland, this is your particular build. So, the trophy. Were you sending a message
apparently
to Robin with the trophy?
Yeah, failed subliminal messaging. I respect the effort. That was a cool detail. I enjoyed it.
And then I asked the question too. There was some luminescent lights near the eel.
Yeah,
Was that supposed to represent the those glowworms that are in those caves south of Hamilton?
Mhm.
Or
I
was
guess
it
we will-
just a way to light up the creature?
Yeah.
He's typing.
Yes, hopefully you'll answer us. But
To be honest, it was the only trophy we were ever going to get.
oh no, come on! This is an awesome build. Like it really is.
You won several challenges. We had you
All the-
for episode 6, the monochrome challenge. That was an
Oh, okay.
amazing build.
And yeah, he's apparently the lights are simply to provide a backlight for the eel because it's so dark.
Ah,
That makes
okay.
sense.
Well, see, I
but
was throwing in another animal for you.
Yeah, it's nice to know. Bioluminescence is fun. And yeah, okay, so yeah, here we can see the entire massive display.
And we can't forget the clouds. Aotearoa, land of the long white cloud. So the clouds in the back, because this is a love letter to New Zealand. So you can't have a love letter without clouds.
Yeah. The tree was also really interesting the way they made that tree. It was too bad that it kind of fell apart on them while they were trying to move it. But they got it back together. It looked awesome.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it had movements too. The flies went around in a circle, and the eel swayed gently in the current.
Yeah. The eel moving slowly. When I was watching the episode, I was like, yeah, that's an eel. Stay away, please. No, thank you. It's too real. But yeah, the flies were also very cool. The way they kind of buzzed around the lizard here. But yeah, all in all, well done, Dan and Jono. Yeah, we definitely enjoyed their builds as well throughout the season.
I think there was a question from Vicarious Brickstress about, is it a continuous 24 hours that you're building?
No. We basically, the build was split over 3 days, but then we didn't have judging till the next day, so really filming was over 4 days.
Interesting. Yeah, this was the only time I think where none of the contestants were present for the judging part.
Yeah.
Did Robin give you kind of personalized feedback later, or?
Not so much. We basically heard their comments when we watched the show.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we just basically turned everything on and scuttled straight out the door, and they got into it.
Wow. So you didn't get to know that the results until it was broadcasted? I'm trying to understand.
Or no, was it the next day that they filmed the results portion? Or
Sorry, we didn't hear the judging part where they talked about the builds. We obviously heard the result.
Right.
But yeah, we didn't hear what they were saying about each build until we got that on TV.
Okay. Wow.
Oh, and here Dan says that they didn't go with their original title. Apparently, that was production. It's multiple predator versus prey stories. Because apparently there's no large land predators in New Zealand.
So yeah, no grizzly bears. Or
No.
wolves.
Or spiders that will kill you. That's why we were joking about Australia versus New Zealand, that everything in Australia will kill you versus the animals in New Zealand. They're much friendlier.
Mhm. But yeah, thanks for that insight. And again, great job, Dan and John.
Yeah, and great to have you here, Dan. And Glenn had mentioned that he knew you before being on the show, especially because I think you're both members of Well Lug. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. But all right, let's move. Oh, no, sorry.
No, go ahead and move on. But I was just going to mention to Dan that we were talking earlier on the show that the custom-made dog poop that you made, that you might be able to sell those at future Brit conventions and be able to sign them as tokens of remembrance of the show.
Yes. Glenn says the sheep are not predators. No, I don't believe the sheep in New Zealand are predatory, unlike some parts of the U.S. So
Actually, the
predator,
when they built Zealandia, they were talking about the major predators that they had to worry about were cats and feral cats. So they had to build these massive, fences that weren't scalable by the cats, and that they have to do perimeter checks multiple times in case there's any problems and a breach, mostly because of the cats.
And Dan says, knew both these two dudes, two of the best Lego guys in the country, proud to have been with them. So,
yeah.
Right back at you, Dan.
Right, so let's talk about Sarah and Emily's Peril of Venus. And this was just a massive kind of Alice in Wonderland type carnivorous plant devouring just a bunch of imaginary creatures here. So this here you can see there's the maw of the plant, and it's got I cannot remember what the name of this creature was.
There's the zebrador, the tentylops, and the something else.
Something
Calliope.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I believe it has the zebrador in its grip here. But yeah, here's another one of these creatures.
Fantastical creatures with lots of those little antennae on them.
Yeah, and its eyes spun round and round.
Yeah, it's hard to see. The picture isn't blurry. It's just the eyes were spinning very fast. And this is just so many of these. Like you can see the leaves and all the antenna. This was a lot of like just thousands and thousands of pieces here. So yeah, Vicarious Berkshire says it looks like a sea urchin for the top down, a little bit.
Or a Venus flytrap.
This is also one of the builds where I wish we had this under just standard lighting, because it kind of like this is like a multicolored creature here, and it just kind of washes out everything.
Yeah, Sarah and Emily really had a gift for the use of color.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Here's another picture of the zebrador. These wings also like kind of flapped around in a circle. So that was fun. And let's see. Another shot of this. Yeah, you can see. I think this is the Calliope.
Kaleidobopede, I believe.
Kaleidobopede. Okay, thank you. And here they incorporated their sig figs into almost every build, which I thought was fun. Did you guys do anything fun with your sig figs? Did you install it in the?
We put it in the first build, but we all had to put them into the first build.
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't really do anything minifig scale. I guess we could have in build number 4, and then we would have plunged to our deaths, Glenn. Yeah. Yeah, so no, that wasn't a thing for us.
Okay. That's fine.
Well, it seems like some of the teams had different signatures. Like in their case, they like to use their sig figs, and Georgie loved to use the chameleon and hide the chameleon and different things.
Ours would have been robots, wouldn't it, Jake?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
robots all the way. Any way we could possibly shoehorn a robot in there, we'll take
Right.
it.
Let's see.
No, I think if anything was our signature, it was probably a movement.
Oh, absolutely.
And just actually, and Glenn's finishing as well, just getting everything finished really, to a high standard. We're thinking it's probably the wrong thing to be prioritizing, but we wanted them to be, good enough to take to a brick show, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. The curved walls are just kind of brick bent. But yeah, the leaves turned out really well.
Yeah, all of their builds, they used a lot of curves, interesting curves and shapes and color, as Glenn was mentioning.
This shot shows, there's 4 different types of leaf in this shot that they had to build. So I thought that was
and they were
fun.
running low on time too, because of all the detail they were putting in on the leaves.
Yeah. But yeah, you can see here in the actual human scale just how massive this build was. It was just sprawling. But yeah, here's a little bit better shot of this creature, Calliope, and
its tongue went in and out as well.
Yep. And for those of you who saw earlier, the back, the large bricks that were part of the set design, those were built too.
Oh, these the red ones in the background, you mean?
Yeah, weren't those brick built as well? I think those might have been Duplo.
I don't think so. They look good.
I think they were just wood. I think they were just painted wood.
No, they're wooden.
They're painted wood.
Oh.
Okay, I must be thinking about just the dice then.
Yeah, the dice were definitely Duplo.
Yeah, maybe for season 2. But yeah, that is it. That was the finale, and this was an amazing finale. I mean, really, the whole season was, kind of on par, I thought, with anything that we did in the U.S. or Australia. So great job, guys. And Alan, are you ready to
make a formal announcement? The winners are.
Yeah, are you ready to know the winners of Lego Masters Aotearoa, Alan?
I certainly am.
Okay.
Been hanging out for it.
And the winners are Glenn and Jake.
Oh, well done, guys.
Congratulations.
And there it is. There's the trophy. I'm going to spotlight you just so that we can show everybody the trophy.
Here it is.
Before the show, Jake had that in the background.
I'll do that now. Just because.
I said, could you put that out so then that way we don't give away the spoiler of who won the show?
Do you keep snacks in it, or what's inside there?
He keeps snacks.
Oh,
like
okay.
A big cookie jar. Oh, it lights up.
That's awesome.
Oh, that is so cool. Or as they say here, that's dope, yo.
Yeah. So is this? Do you keep it 6 months at your place, and then Glenn gets it for the next 6 months at his place, or?
Well, originally I was supposed to have it first, but I couldn't get it home on my plane back from Auckland, so Jake decided he'd take it.
It was either that or leave it at the airport.
Yeah.
But yeah, Glenn's due a turn. But we've got a brick show where we'll both be at in about a month. So maybe we could exchange it then, or then.
So now that you are officially Lego Masters, because a lot of people, when I've talked with them and they say, oh, well, this person's a Lego Master, I go, technically, they're a Lego Master contestant because they didn't actually win. Now, you two won, so you're officially Lego Masters of New Zealand for the season 1. So now that you've earned this trophy, how has your life changed since that moment? Or has it?
Certainly get noticed a bit. Especially when we were at the Christchurch Brick Show a few weeks back, the whole crew were there. So the cast was there, including Robin on the Sunday. And yeah, it was when you're in a place where it's it's all about Lego, and most people who go there have seen the show. It gets quite intense.
I bet.
Yeah, can you just go into a Lego store anymore without being constantly inundated by autographs?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I have not been stopped in the street for my autograph or a selfie or anything like that. But at brick shows, yeah, people know who you are because they, I don't know, in the right frame of mind. Certainly helps if Glenn and I are standing side by side as we were presented on television, or we have a giant trophy. Though not even then, they're like, "Oh, have you won the Rugby World Cup? Is that what that is?" Or people are.
I was around carrying the trophy. You certainly get noticed.
Yeah.
And there's also there are the people that haven't caught up. So you're at the show with the trophy, and then they're like, "Oh no, you spoiled me!
Oh,
I'm not through to that. I'm not through to the end yet." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, but
I gotta carry the trophy."
Yeah,
and we've tried really hard not to give spoilers out. So even when we knew you were going to be on the show as the winners for our very last show for this season, we've been doing these episodes called What, When, Why Wednesdays, and we pick a topic. And we were just so thrilled that the two of you, Dan and Jono and Georgie and Andrew, they all were willing to come on the show and be so generous with your time. And we just really appreciate you doing that. And we would love to have you come back too, especially if there's a future Lego Masters New Zealand season 2.
Well,
do you think, have they told you that they're going to renew?
Yeah, they've announced the season 2.
Yeah, at the I just rewatched it yesterday, and just in the last 10 seconds of the episode, they casually drop it in. Oh, filming next year, season 2 is coming. That's the kind of announcement that we would have to wait like months and months with no information for. So, but apparently it was really popular, which was great. So I'm glad that they already greenlit season 2.
Yeah, from what we've heard, the ratings were really good.
Right, and I think since you're the Lego Masters, you may be brought in for season 2, maybe, right? To at least make a cameo.
I don't think that's very likely, but yeah, but would definitely consider it if there was an offer.
Well, we really appreciate you being on the show, and several people in the chat are thanking you as well for being here. And thank you, Alan, as well. What are your thoughts, Alan, now that you know that Glenn and Jake are the Lego Masters winners, and you were sharing the stage? Were you cheering them on? I guess you were expecting.
If I was judging, I'd be totally impartial and wouldn't show my preferences. I judge speech competitions, and you always try to remain impartial at all times.
Yeah, that's really true. Now, what's the other interesting thing about this episode or this whole series is that there were no contestants from Auckland, but you had to go to Auckland for all of the filming. So being away from home must have been also a challenge. And I know it was for Dan, and it was great that they brought Smudge up for you. What do you think about maybe for season 2? Are you anticipating there's going to be, I would imagine there's got to be some people from Auckland coming.
I'm not sure. Maybe. I don't really know exactly who's on season 2. I mean, you'd think that Auckland being the biggest city would have plenty of Lego builders, and they do, of course, but
the builders that Robin had behind the scenes were Aucklanders.
Yeah, they were.
Okay.
They were behind. They were the Auckland AFOLs. They were a crew. Yeah.
Okay, and apparently we have some breaking news, spoilers for season 2 here. Smudge will be on season 2 with her brother Fleck as a team. So look forward to that. Yeah, that'll be great.
And Vicarious Brickstress mentions that she wants to see them do a feline build together. That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, once again, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you, Glenn Copeland, Vicarious Brickstress, Building with the Black Dog, Dan, Brick Jedi, everybody who's been in the chat. We really appreciate you also hanging out with us. Lena, we know that it's great that you get a chance to enjoy this content. And for those of you who are enjoying this, please like and subscribe to the stream.
Yeah.
As YouTubers, I know Glenn knows this, or Jake knows this too, that you always have to ask people to like and subscribe to the stream because you're watching the Brickanista Broadcast Network. Thank you so much for doing that. And also, don't forget to follow Brick Literacy. Our buddy, I keep forgetting the way to point, our buddy Brick Literacy over here. and this is interesting because this is kind of our finale for we have one more episode of What, When, Why Wednesday, which is going to be coming up, but I don't have the secured time yet. Also, if you want to send me a note, Brickanista Broadcast Network, P.O. Box 31956, Seattle, Washington, and follow Roos on YouTube.
Yes.
We have some background music.
Are we being played out?
Yeah, it's my son. My son has started his practicing guitar. I'll just mute myself now.
Okay. I was going to say, you're getting a hint.
When you're up there on the stage too long,
coming out,
they play you off.
For you to go right on some of those Academy Awards. And Alan, thank you again for being a co-host on this show. I hope you enjoyed your time here, being on StreamYard. Thank you. And of course, Glenn and Jake, both of you, thank you so much, and congratulations again on such an amazing win. All of your hard work paid off, and you really inspired so many people around the world. And we're really grateful for you for sharing your talent with us here on this little show on YouTube. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks very much. It's been a lot of fun being on your stream.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. And just to make a short announcement too, that right after this stream, for those of you who are part of the Brick Scouts, we have this small group that what we do is we do good deeds using bricks. We call ourselves the Brick Scouts. So we do have a meeting right after this at 6 o'clock, so in about 30 minutes. And it's on the Facebook page. So go ahead on the Facebook page, and that's where the link is. I'll also put it on the Discord. And then also we do have another episode of What, When, Why Wednesdays, which hopefully will be next week, but we may need to shift it about an hour later. So we normally broadcast at 6 o'clock p.m. And our special guest is going to be an Aussie, my friend Steve Reynolds. And what we're going to talk about is superheroes. And funny enough, both he and I are fans of Batman. And even though this isn't a superhero, Scooby-Doo, but that's how we started talking. And he's got a variety of different superhero mocks and things that he can share with us. But and he jokingly says he has the physique of Bro Thor from the series MCU universe. So
Quarantine Thor. That's
Quarantine Thor, yeah. So Steve Reynolds from Melbourne. So he'll be on hopefully next Wednesday. We'll put out the announcement. Normally it's 6, but I think it's going to be at 7 o'clock Pacific. So thanks again for everybody's support. And as they say on the Brickanista Broadcast Network, take care and may the clutch be with you. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.